I've been meaning to do a video like this for the longest time, ever since I started this YouTube channel. In fact, I saw a video quite recently of a New Zealander living in Spain doing a video like this, and I got inspiration from that video. And it got me thinking of how can I do my own take and kind of like review the last 14 years of my life here in Greece, and hopefully this will give you some type of insights in what life is here in Greece. And this will apply really for you that wants to move and relocate to another country, because I think there are such a universal aspect of living abroad. I'm going to start with the most important aspect of living abroad, and that of course is the language. When I moved here to Greece, I knew a little bit of Greek because I was studying. I was preparing myself for the big move, but I always struggle to learn Greek, as you do. You know, there's no easy way to learn a language, but throughout the years of me living in England and having a Greek wife, it did help to learn the language. However, there is no shortcut to learning a language. You're on your own pretty much. It's actually one of the hardest things that anybody can do. I certainly have put in the hours. I'm not perfect. I can speak fluent Greek. I can read Greek. I struggle quite a lot in writing, of course, as you do. But I study, you know, I was studying in England. I've spoken about this before on previous videos, that I went to the Hellenic Center in London and I was going to classes and all of this. But I've put a lot of hours and hard work, and I've done my homework. And despite all of that, when I arrived here in Greece, I found it very challenging to speak fluently and to understand and try to communicate my ideas with people. And my situation is very unique as well, because I work online and I work from home. So I am, you know, I'm not in regular contact with other people in a work environment that they're Greeks, okay? And I think that has been a very difficult aspect of my life here in Greece when it comes down to normal interactions on a day-to-day basis. And that's why I put a lot of emphasis and try to get out of my comfort zone and socialize. And that's why you see me building relationships here in the community and putting a lot of effort in that. I know that a lot of you guys have mentioned that my Greek is very, very good. I mean, my accent is very, very good, but there's still very big gaps in the language and the knowledge. And I feel that I have to go back to studying more Greek, very basic things, right, that I should be able to know by now. And, you know, it's a confession, really. I mean, I could speak very fluently, but there are certain things that I know that I'm not very good at. And after all these years, you feel like I should be more fluent in Greek. I mean, my daughter, Melina, she's 6. She's now correcting me in Greek. Obviously, she's a child who's been raised here in Greece, but, you know, she has already developed this fluency in the language, as they do, as kids do. And she's correcting me. A lot of people say, like, you don't really need to speak Greek. You can just, you know, get along by speaking English, but that's not the best way to integrate into the Greek life and to communicate, and as well to just be part of it. You know, you're always going to feel like an outsider. I mean, if I feel like an outsider and I speak Greek, and even though I'm very well integrated into the community, I'm very well integrated into the Greek lifestyle, you know, and I pass as a Greek, I still feel that I am a foreigner, and I will always feel like that. There's nothing wrong with it, but my job is to communicate as best as possible in the native language of the country. If I was living in a different country, I will certainly have to learn that language. At least this is from my own personal opinion. But I know there are people that live in foreign countries, including Greece, for many, many years, and they don't speak the language. I mean, I've seen that in America. I have seen that in England. You know how many people live in England and for years they have kids, families, and they don't speak English? A lot. I don't want to be someone like that. I want to be someone that can actually speak the language and be able to communicate. But I believe that language is the number one thing that I will put at the list of one of the hardest things that I had to overcome, and I'm still overcoming as someone who's been living here in Greece for many, many years. When it comes to work, it's obvious that if you don't speak that language, it's going to be very hard for you to work in a foreign country. Of course, you can find work here in Greece as an English-speaking native, There's certainly jobs, opportunity for a lot of people that don't speak Greek, but they speak English. In fact, I've been targeted online from different ads because I speak Spanish in order to get work here in Greece. Right? If I speak Spanish, there are certain jobs available for native Spanish speakers. For me, when I moved from the UK here to Greece, my job was a cafe. One of the reasons why we moved here. And it was a perfect deal at the time because I could be earning money while I'm learning the language, and I can be in the system as well. That job that I had when I first relocated from the UK here to Greece did not work out, and I became unemployed. And this is where my journey of working online began, really, out of necessity, not because it was something cool to do. It was actually because of necessity that I had to start thinking outside of the box. And I was looking for things to do online as someone who was living in a foreign country, and while being a stay-at-home dad, and of course being flat broke. So that's my beginnings as an online entrepreneur, and it's what I've been doing all these years. And I gave a lot of thanks to that hardship of relocating from the UK here to Greece in the midst of the Greek crisis, and having a failed business, you know, and going for a lot of hardship in the beginning. I mean, I live in Greece, but I work 100% online. My income is in dollars, and I'm just using my skills and my talent and everything that I'm passionate about in order to earn a living. It's been a long road, really, in order to get to where I'm at today, you know? I mean, today's a weekday, and it's 8:30, maybe 9 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday, and I could easily be commuting somewhere. You know, I could easily be in Athens going somewhere for work, you know, a 9 to 5 or whatever. I could easily be doing that. There's nothing wrong with being an employee, that's what I want to say, but I don't take that for granted that I could be out and about and shooting a YouTube video, and this is all thanks because I work online. I don't want to glamorize it that much, but it's totally doable. So I get asked a lot about how can someone start working online. And the biggest thing that I will say is that try to think of your skills, try to think of what you're good at, and try to think of what will people be willing to pay money for, right? Because you might be able to offer something, but are people really willing to pay for that? That's the first thing. And I think people sometimes want to do things that are completely outside of their comfort zone or their knowledge, right? They don't know about that thing that they see other people doing, and you know, they think that that might be a possibility, you know. But try to think very, very hard. The things that I do online is because it's things that I'm very, very good at, and I have an edge or an unfair advantage, so to speak, right? So my background is in music, so I've been doing music all my life, so I know a lot about music. I know a lot about music production. I know, you know, I don't need to learn how to play an instrument. I don't need to learn about music. All of these things come naturally to me, and I can just, you know, do something with it. The same goes with content creation, right? Speaking on camera is not easy. It's not a walk in the park. Even for me that I've been doing videos for many, many years, it's still very, very hard. Try to communicate an idea, try to, you know, communicate with people. Creating a product is not easy if you've never done it before. You know, it could be a book, it could be a program, it could be anything. So try to think about what's your skills, what's the knowledge that you have that someone else might not have, and how can you monetize that in some way, shape, or form in the online space. That's the main homework for you that wants to start working online, whether you want to relocate to Greece or not. This is just homework that you need to do, and you have to really dig deeper and try to see how can you bring that to the forefront in order to earn money online. This has been a struggle for me. I have to confess, after 14 years living here, it has been very hard for me to build relationships in terms of friendships and have a group of friends. I guess it's the cultural aspect of it, even though the Venezuelan culture and any Latin American culture is very similar to the Mediterranean culture, like Greeks, Italians, Portuguese, Spanish. There is something that is very similar about those cultures, but nevertheless, it's been very, very hard for me to have friends, right, here in Greece. And that's just, I think it's a natural part of living in a foreign country, especially after a certain age. I relocated here to Greece when I was 35. So after all these years, it has been a struggle for me to really have friends here in Greece that I can say, like, I know this person for the last 14 years and he's a close friend and he happens to be Greek or whatever. One of the downsides of working online and working from home, especially in a foreign country, is that you don't have the human interaction. You don't have that connection on a day-to-day basis, and building friendships can be very, very hard. And when it comes to family, it's the same thing. All of my family, obviously it's not Greek, so they don't live here. You know, my mom is not here, so my daughters see my mom, their grandmother, very sporadically, which is something that breaks my heart, right? And that has been very tough over the years. In fact, my grandmother, she just recently passed away. And of course I couldn't be there. This kind of things you miss when you live abroad. You know, birthdays and celebrations, you know, death. It's been a struggle for many, many years, and the more time passes by, I can see this having a heavy weight in my heart because, you know, we get old. You know, I'm getting old, my mom is getting old. My daughters are growing up. There are certain things that you cannot rewind time and enjoy those things. So it's been really, really hard. I think it's something that you need to consider if you want to relocate, not only to Greece, but anywhere you go. If you're planning to just move, these are the things that are going to be tough. I mean, one thing is to experience those things for a few years, and another thing is for that to actually be the way it always is, okay? Because I've been in Greece for 14 years, but before that I was living 10 years in England. You know, so I've been away from home, from Venezuela, from where I grew up for many, many years. So it's not like I have been living here in Greece as a foreigner for the last 14 years. It's more than that. So this has taken a toll, really. When I left Venezuela, I was a kid. I was in my early 20s. You know, I saw my dad right before he passed away. Back in 2015 when he came to Greece to visit us after not seeing him for many, many years. It's a sad story, man. I'm very happy that I saw my dad before he passed away. He passed away very, very young. It's one of the reasons why I have the tattoo of my dad here. I don't know if you can see it. I can probably talk about that tattoo. That's my father. You know, my parents divorced when I was a kid. My dad was a very successful photographer in Venezuela, and you know, I grew up with a lot of resentment towards my dad in a certain way, because when you grow up in a broken family, you know, you've been told certain things and you make your own conclusions that, you know, my dad is not a good person. And as I was living abroad and growing up, and I had my own kids, I started to reflect more on that story that was told and things that I believed about my father and my own family, my own parents. And you know, I have made peace with this a long time ago, but you know, there was a big gap in my life that I never can go back and you know, relive that. But there was a big chunk of years that I was not in touch with my father, because I left Venezuela and because I just didn't want to. And you know, thanks to the internet, we actually managed to get in touch again while I was living here in Greece. He tried to reach out at some point when I was living in England through Facebook. That's why I'm very grateful for the internet and all the social media platforms that just, you know, with all the negatives that it has, it's such a great way to connect. And you know, anyways, I might talk about that story in another video, but what I want to say is that, you know, I managed to get in touch with my father while I was living abroad, and after many, many years. And you know, he actually came to Greece and met my daughter and met my wife, and I reconnected with him after probably 15 years, probably more, man. And it's really bad, it's really sad. But I was happy to connect with him and, you know, and show him Greece. And then he went back to Venezuela, and very shortly he died. So it was like almost like the last chance of me just trying to reconnect with my father. And that's why that left a big pain in my heart, because I wish I had my father around. He was young, you know. And I wish I could have my mom as well around. And my mom still lives, but she's not here with me here in Greece, right? So these are things that really are painful for me. As someone who has a family, and family is very important, living abroad is a high price to pay to not have your family with you here. And you know, but I'm forever grateful that my wife has, you know, both her parents, and my two daughters can have grandma and grandfathers here in Greece, at least from that side. But there's many things that I can talk about family and friends that is really, really painful when you live abroad. So my relationship with my wife has gone through different cycles, of course, especially when you live in the country where your spouse is from, right? I always wonder how life would be if we were living in Venezuela and my wife is the one who had to learn how to speak Spanish and everything was from my side. The dynamics of the relationship will certainly change if you're planning to move abroad, whether you want to come to Greece or not. This certainly changed the dynamics of my relationship with my wife. When I first got here, I was just 100% relying on her in terms of not only income because she was the main breadwinner, but because she speaks Greek. And still to this day, there's a lot of things that I have to depend on her because of the language. So for example, she deals with the accountant, right? And it's not just because I don't speak very well Greek. I do speak very, very well Greek, but we do work together online. So I just let her deal with certain things when it comes down to the Greek culture, especially bureaucracy and all of this red tape and some terms in Greek that I might struggle with in terms of understanding. And this was more intense in the beginning, like I was mentioning, the very first years, the early years. It's something that you have to consider when you move to a foreign country and your spouse is from there, because the dynamics was completely different when we were both living in England. We're both foreigners living in England and we're both had a different dynamic. We're both, not from England, but we're both foreigners in a place. We don't have any family members. We're both trying to fight our own front when it comes down to employment and all of that. And we noticed a shift immediately as soon as we got here to Greece. We did suffer quite a lot as a couple in the beginning. I have to admit that, not only because of hardships and the Greek crisis, and not to mention that, Greek family unit is so strong, but at the same time, there's a negative side to it. Meaning that the in-laws can have a hand into the relationship, which is very common here in Greece. I mean, they make movies about this and, comedy series because of that. And that's the dark side of having your in-laws and having a big family here in Greece, that they're so close and so involved in your relationship. It could be a strain into the marriage, into the relationship. I certainly went through that big time. So. We're very happy where we are. We live here in Nafplio for the last 4 years, so we're really excited, and we're always investing in ourselves. And one of the reasons why we moved here is because we love Nafplio, but at the same time to gain back that, that individuality or that autonomy of not being so close to my mother-in-law and my father-in-law. I mean, even if they watch this video, they don't speak English, but even if they watch this video and they watch this part, they will agree with me and say things are much better now because we live an hour and a half away from where they live. Because before, relationships were a little bit difficult. We were way too close. There was a lot of mixed emotions, but we're much happier here because there is some healthy distance between me and the in-laws, and I get along very well with my in-laws. I said this before. I treat my mother-in-law like my mom, and my father-in-law like a father to me. And relationships are much better now. They're much healthier right now because we live at a healthy distance, and we can get on with our lives. And it is what it is. It's healthier on the relationship as well. It's healthier for my wife. We're close, but we're not far away. We're not far away, but we're still close, so to speak. I might touch more on that if you're curious about the Greek culture and family, all the good and the bad. Which brings me to the next point, which is raising kids here in Greece. As soon as my daughter Feder was born in England, I told my wife, book the tickets to Greece, we're moving to Greece. And this is a true story. It's so child-friendly everywhere you go. You don't feel like your kids is a burden when you are out and about eating out, or everybody's engaged with the kids. When it comes down to kids, they are a big part of the society, and everything goes around children. Okay, It's a very important aspect of society. Can you grow up in the States, in America, and be a happy child? Absolutely. The same in England. I have friends in England that, they have families, they have kids, happy children. But in my personal opinion, I want my kids to grow up in a country like Greece with values that are very similar to mine in Venezuela. And yes, there are many downsides to any country when it comes down to education, when it comes down to many things. But when it comes to raising kids in a culture like the Greek culture and being surrounded by people that actually care about children, it's not uncommon to go to a playground late at night and see families just with children just playing around, right? It's not uncommon for that. And the reason why is because, yes, it gets really hot in the summer and you can only do that when it's not that hot. But at the same time, there is a culture around a family and children being out and about. There's a lot of that. And that has to do with the culture. It's not uncommon to go out to a taberna, to a place to eat out, and it's 12 o'clock at midnight and you see, families with pushchairs and children around. And this is part of the culture. They integrate the children into the culture, there's not a separation. It's not like, let's keep the kids over there while we go out and enjoy ourselves. And this is something that is very similar to the Venezuelan culture. The family unit is very important, and I want my kids to be with those values here in Greece. It's a very important aspect of why I live here in Greece in the first place, because I did not want my kids to be raised in England. No disrespect to my English friends and even Greeks that live in England and have families over there. I'm sure you have your reasons, and I salute you. In fact, I know a Greek married to an Australian who actually left with her kid to England a few years ago. I respect that. It's such a personal thing, but when kids grow up in different countries, they become, a person from that country. And I certainly wanted my girls to be Greek, have those Greek values, even if they choose to move abroad in the future, okay? Because I'm very proud to be Venezuelan. I'm very proud to have been raised in Venezuela, a much poorer country than Greece. And, if I know a lot of Greeks bring that to the forefront. And here I am, I'm very happy to have my kids here and, be part of the system. The friendships that they have is just unbelievable, and that has to do with the culture as well. The fact that my daughter as well can just go out and integrate with other friends and have certain freedoms. I'm not worried about knife crime or gun crime, it's a completely different thing over here. Yes, I live in the countryside, and in Athens it will be a completely different story, but still, it's Greece, okay? It's not other places. And this is something that I really take to heart as someone who's very passionate about raising independent girls. And, I don't want to worry so much about crime and insecurities and all of this. I want them to experience a certain level of freedom and have human interaction as they grow older and build strong relationships. Which brings me to the next point. When does the honeymoon period end? Right? Because when you live in a foreign country, you're so excited in the beginning. You feel like everything is great. Even you just can't see the negatives of that place. So when does the honeymoon period end? And for me, the honeymoon period ended very, very quickly because I didn't have the chance to experience that. When we arrived from the UK here to Greece, I arrived, I believe it was a Thursday, and by Saturday I was already working in the Cafeneo. So I've mentioned this before, and the Cafeneo again is the place where I was going to be working here in Greece. So I arrived and I immediately started to work, and things changed very, very quickly, very, very fast. So that honeymoon period, I did not experience it really. And I think it's one of the reasons why I do what I do today. even doing this type of videos and you see me walking by the beach and living a certain lifestyle is because I'm trying to recreate that honeymoon period. And I guess that the best way to have a honeymoon period, wherever you go anyways, is to stay curious and stay excited about the place where you live. And this applies for even Greeks themselves. You know, the fact that we moved from Elefsina over here to Nafplio made an immense change in our lifestyle. I cannot stress that enough. My life is 100% different here in Nafplio compared to my life in Elefsina. Elefsina is the place where we were living when we arrived from the UK here to Greece. That's where my wife is from. And I can tell you right now that my lifestyle has changed so much that I'm thinking that I'm actually rebuilding this honeymoon period since we moved here. Just because I'm close to the sea, I can go for this type of hikes. It's a completely different lifestyle. And it's something that I've been fighting for many years. I think that it took me 10 years to accomplish this because we've only been living here for the last 4 years. But this is one of the reasons why I moved to Greece in the first place. And yes, I want to live my Greek lifestyle like this. Being creative, having my family here, going to the beach. I don't want to wait for a holiday in order to go to the sea and swim. I can do this every single day if I wanted to. And this is something that has been a passion. It was one of the main reasons why I wanted to relocate here to Greece in the first place, apart from all the other reasons of raising kids here and all of that. So the honeymoon period, I think that you can actually live that and extend that as much as possible if you know where you want to live and how you can live a life and a lifestyle that is important to you. And if I was living in Athens, and I was living in the center of Athens, it will be a completely different reality. These videos will look very, very different if I was living in Anopatisia, okay? Nothing against people that live in Anopatisia in Athens, but these videos will be completely different. And this is the reason why I record my videos outdoors, is because this is my Greek lifestyle. I'm going for a hike, and yeah, you can say that I am still in a honeymoon period, but after 10 years. It has taken me 10 years to actually try to live the honeymoon period here in Greece, because I believe that I did not experience that in the first 10 years of living here in this country. And with that, my friend, I'll let you go. Thank you so much for all the love and support. Leave in the comment section where you're watching this video from. Σας ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ, σας αγαπάω πάρα πολύ, and I'll see you in another video, my friend.